समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के एसआईपी का टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
क्या? समझ में नहीं आया।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का एसआईपी टॉपअप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
अब समझा।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme related documents carefully.
Lined up in rows in their neat white uniforms, the children listened in respectful silence. Even if one boy remains illiterate, it is our loss, we know that, said the Tehreek-e-Taliban commander, his assault rifle cradled in his arm. But the government is killing our women and children, and we cannot allow it to remain in our communities. This school must close. A teacher standing in the crowd protested ineffectually. I studied at this school myself, the commander replied. So I came personally to deliver this message respectfully. Else, I have 4 drones I could have sent instead. With embers still glowing from the 100-hour war between India and Pakistan, which began on May 7, the Tehreek-e-Taliban school closure campaign in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa's troubled North Waziristan serves to remind us of something very important, that Pakistan is also fighting a war within. Large parts of the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa region have effectively ceded control of state authority. In the south, in Balochistan, insurgents continue to blockade highways and stage attacks on government forces on an everyday basis. And this is where it becomes interesting. Fragile nation states, you see, have a special rationality all of their own. This week, Pakistan's generals haven't been debating the missile threat from India or the economic damage that the Indus Waters Treaty might cause to their country. Those are matters that can be addressed through alliances or seeking rents from the country's geopolitical position. The question the generals are asking instead is how much space the crisis has created to escalate the covert war in Kashmir. The other day, ThePrint exclusively reported on threats of violence that Mohammad has already started holding out against India. For generations, Indian strategists have acted in the belief that the generals across the border were pretty much like themselves, rational actors who respond predictably to pain and to profit. Yet, as ThePrint's editor Shekhar Gupta has observed, India's past punitive operations have brought only short-term tactical pauses in Kashmir. This is an outcome very well short of meaningful deterrence, which means get ready for the next round. Like his predecessors, Pakistan Army Chief General Asim Munir is the custodian of a Praetorian ideological state built around the Islamist credo called the ideology of Pakistan. 3 wars have been fought for Kashmir, and if 10 more need to be fought, we will fight, Allah willing, General Munir proclaimed earlier this year, or I should call him Field Marshal Munir now. Allah's group will always prevail based on faith, piety and jihad. Thus, endless war with India, according to Field Marshal Munir, is not a means to an end. It is the end that allows the Praetorian army-run state to survive. Fragility, if you think about it, has been the essence of Pakistan's condition ever since its birth. Liaquat Ali Khan, the country's first Prime Minister, announced in a 1948 broadcast that defense must, I quote, dominate all other government activities. This in a country torn apart by partition, bankrupt, desperately poor. For years after his independence, historian Paul M. McGarr notes, defense expenditure made up more than 70% of Pakistan's budget. Former Pakistani President Field Marshal Mohammad Ayub Khan likewise concluded that the survival of the country was, I quote, vitally linked with the establishment of a well-trained, well-equipped and well-led army. From the Kashmir War of 1947 to 1948, the Nizam's defeat in Hyderabad, Pakistan's failure to secure Junagadh, Pakistan's elite learned a perverse lesson. The answer to its problems was not rapprochement with India, but the prosecution of a relentless program to bleed its troublesome eastern neighbor. Obviously, only a short time has passed since the 100-hour war, making it difficult to draw useful conclusions about what Pakistan is really thinking. We know from independent Western analysis that India lost at least 2 fighter jets, perhaps as many as 5 in the opening hours of combat, including a Rafale, a Sukhoi 30 and a MiG-29. Forewarned by India that it would strike at terrorism-related targets alone, French analyst Fabrice Wolf has suggested that the Pakistan Air Force used long-range missiles to target aircraft that remained on the Indian side of the border, surprising the Indian Air Force. Following this first phase of combat, Pakistan decided to turn punishment into deterrence by attacking India. India's air defences, though, very successfully beat back waves of drone attacks, and in the third phase hit at least 9 high-value airfields in Pakistan with precision missiles, satellite imagery shows. Attacks significant not necessarily for the damage they caused, but for demonstrating the ability to cripple military infrastructure deep inside Pakistan with meter-scale precision. To simply measure the impacts of this crisis by weighing the material damage, though, is a futile exercise. As the Soviet general Andrian Danilevich, one of my favorite theorists, once said, if the military art could be reduced to arithmetic, we would not need any wars. The generals have proved willing to absorb damage and move on. And from the past, it's clear just how tenuous the gains from Indian coercion have proved. The victory in Kargil, after all, saw a sharp escalation of violence in Kashmir, which claimed more Indian lives than were lost in the war. The 2001-2002 crisis might have engendered a peace process, but that led on to 2611, as well as the uprisings of 2006, 2010, 2012, 2016 in Kashmir. The cross line of control strikes of 2016 drew retaliation in the form of multiple Fedayeen attacks across the Kashmir Valley and Jammu. The 2019 Balakot strike did nothing to end attacks on Indian troops or civilians and culminated in Pahalgam. All this raises a simple question. What might actually deter Pakistan? Is it even possible? The problem of how to deter Pakistan from using its resources to support terrorist groups, it's useful to remember, is neither new nor unique to India. Faced with the growing flow of weapons and personnel into Afghanistan, Central Intelligence Agency documents show that the Soviet Union stepped up airstrikes against both Mujahideen and Pakistan Army border outposts in 1985-1986. The first 6 months of 1986, the CIA recorded, saw Soviet air incursions into Pakistan rise to about 500, doubling from the same period the previous year. Even though the United States supplied state-of-the-art surface-to-air missiles to build up Pakistan's air defenses, Soviet pilots proved surprisingly skilled at evading these threats. From mid-1985 onwards, Islamabad's Stinger, Red Eye and Krotal missile systems succeeded in regularly claiming kills. The country credits its F-16s with bringing down 10 Soviet aircraft. However, the Soviet archives confirm the loss of just 3 Sukhoi 22s, a Sukhoi 25 and a transport aircraft. Authors Lester W. Grau and Ali Ahmad Jalali have recorded that Soviet special forces also took their battle across the border into Pakistan, destroying Mujahideen bases in Zawar to disrupt the jihadist supply line from Miran Shah. The cave complex at Zawar, where the Mujahideen had their main logistics center, was overrun by Soviet special forces in April 1986. The Spetsnaz, the special forces, also struck across the Kunar River in Krer. The famous battle for Hill 3234 saw just 39 Soviet paratroopers of the 345th Independent Guards hold off concerted attacks by Mujahideen and Pakistani military forces for several days in 1988. To increase the pressure, the Afghan intelligence service, the Khadamat-o-Etilat-e-Dawlati or KHAD, stepped up a bombing campaign inside Pakistan. The bomb blast at a Pakistan International Airlines office in 1986 was intended to signal that the Soviet Union was serious about inflicting pain across the border. These terrorist bombings were a lot cheaper than airstrikes, obviously, though they caused less damage to Mujahideen infrastructure. And KHAD also manipulated clan and ethnic grievances and allied with figures like the narcotics trafficker Wali Khan Kuki Khel to turn groups like the Afridi against the ISI. These enterprises had fleeting results. In Afghanistan, of course, you rent your allies, you don't buy them. And the tribes frequently switch sides. But they did take the conflict south of the Afghan border into Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Even this long Soviet campaign of attrition, though, proved inadequate to end Pakistan's backing for the Mujahideen. Long before the Soviets began pulling their troops back across the Amu Darya River, it had become clear to Moscow that the costs of the campaign far outweighed Afghanistan's strategic significance. Like the Soviets, the Americans would learn the same lesson in turn. In long ideological wars, the patient wins, not the victorious. And the war India is fighting with Pakistan is indeed ideological. Even as Indian strategists consider how to deter the next terrorist strike, there are urgent challenges within Kashmir. Like it or not, the Pakistan army has shown it is willing to fight. This has given renewed hope to the pro-Pakistan constituency within Kashmir, which felt itself completely marginalized and defeated until recently. To win this battle, India needs political tools, not guns. It needs a sharply focused strategy to strengthen the legitimacy of the democratic political system. Even more importantly, New Delhi needs to address the deep fears of Hindu communalism that still runs through Kashmir's cultural consciousness. The government also needs to engage with the atrophy that has seized policing in Jammu and Kashmir. 4 out of 6 Kashmiri terrorists who were killed last week, I'd reported in ThePrint, had been active in the region for years, highlighting the diminished flow of local intelligence. That in turn is linked to issues of training, morale and leadership rooted in the Indian government's poorly conceived decision to shut down the Jammu and Kashmir police's state-level cadre in 2019. Finally, India needs to rein in its own impulses for knee-jerk violence, manifested in the demolition of homes and unfocused arrests after Pahalgam. India has worn down the insurgency in Jammu and Kashmir to negligible levels. Last year, despite multiple ambushes targeting the Indian Army, only 26 security force personnel were killed, the lowest level since 2012. Fatalities of civilians were at their lowest level in a quarter century. True, Pakistan retains the capacity to stage politically damaging strikes like Pahalgam and even unleash terrorist bombings against Indian cities. But India has choices about how to respond. Though punishing terrorists and their sponsors are important, India should remember its endgame is winning Kashmir, not defeating Pakistan. I'm Praveen Swami and I'm a contributing editor at ThePrint. Thank you for watching this episode of Security Code.